and welcome to TheraTay. My name is Ashley. I'm here with my co-host Katie and a very special guest, Rudi. Rudi hosts the podcast, The Hidden Way Pod, and we were honored to be guests on her podcast to talk a little bit about the life of the showgirl. And so we wanted to have her back and talk a little bit more in depth about some of our themes today. So, Rudi, do you want to share just a little bit about you and your podcast?
Sure. I am Rudi, like you said. I also am a therapist, and I work a lot with women who are high achieving, and not just high achieving, but emotional, sensitive people who are remind me in a lot of ways of Taylor's music and the things that she discusses there. I think her music helps me make sense of a lot of my experiences, but I think as you guys do so well, I think there's just a lot that we can explore there for a lot of people and a lot of things that we go through. So I have a podcast called The Hidden Way, and it's my hope there is to just help people make sense of their inner world. And I think you use Taylor's lyrics and her music to try to help people do that too. So I think that that's really cool.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, Rudi. We've really been looking forward to this. Um, so as we get started here, Katie's going to tell us a little bit about the theme for today. Katie, take it away.
Yeah, we're discussing the kind of the category of like relationship green flags. And there are a number of songs on the album that we think do a really good job of talking about what are signs of a positive relationship. And so those songs are Opalite, Honey, Wood, and Wish List. And I'll just give a brief summary of like what each of those songs discuss. So the song Opalite is kind of like discussing how we can make something beautiful out of our hardships and still have a very special, very real relationship. Even though we've been in past relationships, those experiences have made us stronger. It doesn't tear us apart. So there's just an absence of jealousy in that song. And the song Honey, I just love this song because I think it really shows that things that have been used as harm against me in the past can actually be like redeemed. Like they can be good, happy things again in a new relationship and in a new context. And then the song Would, it's all about having a generous and thriving sexual connection. And it just kind of emphasizes that the best lovemaking is reciprocal giving between people. And then Wish List, it's summarizing how we're really happy with the simple things and we want a simple and full life together. So,
I thought Wood was about superstition.
I mean, you're also correct, Rudy.
Okay, okay,
So
yeah,
I thank you for adding that in because you're
okay.
right.
Amazing.
Yeah, I like how when she was on, I think, was it Jimmy Fallon or something? When they like, she was like, "So, what's that about?" And she was like, "Superstition."
And that's all she said.
Yeah, exactly. Wings of like, it was this like silly grin. So, yeah, but you're right. Moving on, I would just love to open up the question for anybody who'd like to answer it. But what do you think are the signs of a healthy relationship? And specifically, what are signs of a healthy relationship that you see in these songs? Maybe a specific one or maybe all four. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Rudy, would you like to begin?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to look at relationships through the lens of this Travis and Taylor romance that I think we all got to at least watch from the outside. We got to observe, and we don't obviously know them. We don't know who they are and the details of their relationship. But I think through her music and through what we were able to see, we could really see a difference in the way that Travis treated her versus maybe other relationships that she's had in the past, and the types of themes and emotions in songs about him versus maybe some of the things that she's written about in the past. And I think a healthy relationship to me is about two people who they don't feel threatened by each other's greatness. They don't feel threatened by each other's strength and each other's um, magic, and they celebrate each other. They are attracted to those parts of each other instead of feeling like threatened by them. Or and what I see in this relationship and in my own experiences with relationships, I think we we do well when we're with somebody who is amazed by who we are and um, not weirded out by it, not
Mhm.
feel we don't feel less, they don't feel less than. And so I see that for them in this relationship.
Yeah, and I think that is shown so clearly in even just how the album was announced, that it was like from his podcast, and you can just see like how proud he is of her, and like the way that they celebrate each other throughout that podcast. And as you were talking, I was thinking of the song Honey, because there's the lyric like or just the idea that like he says honey and means it like in a sweet way as opposed to like a misogynistic way. And the bridge of that song where it says, you stay until the morning, after like talking about other experiences, like I think that it just shows how sweet love can be and how sweet, get it, honey?
Mhm.
But just how like supportive and like seeing the other person for who they are and like fully accepting them as opposed to like judging or like you said feeling threatened or feeling jealous, like just being a kind presence to the other person and fully accepting them, I think is like such a beautiful thing to look at when we're thinking about relationships.
Yeah. I don't have anything to add. I think you both summed it up so beautifully there, with like the absence of jealousy, but also the presence of celebration in each other's strengths. I know that Ashley especially loves to talk about attachment, and Rudy, I know that you're interested in it, so I would love to know, like, what is like healthy attachment? Maybe we could get like a definition for what that is, and maybe how we see that healthy attachment showing up in some of these songs.
Yeah, I think healthy attachment is um, that when stressful things happen or when there's a disagreement or something happening between us, we can stay present in it together. We don't have to run away. We don't have to hide. We don't have to attack during those moments. And I don't think that means that we always handle conflict smoothly and well. Like sometimes we do step away, sometimes we do, have those moments, but um, there's like an underlying sense or a foundation that just because we argue doesn't mean something's wrong. It means that we care enough to work through it. We care enough to address problems, because I think, an unhealthy attachment is really just this every, conflict or emotion just makes us feel so uncomfortable that we panic and we withdraw, or we, you know, um, try to cling too hard. And so, yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think you did a great job explaining that. And I think to add on to that, just being able to say what you're feeling without being afraid of how the other person is gonna see it or gonna respond to that. Just feeling like you can be your full self and bring that into the relationship and say, this is me. Like I talked earlier about feeling accepted or being accepting of the other person. This is also like being fully accepted by your partner, and having the confidence that even when there is conflict, um, that you'll be able to get through it, that it's not going to ruin the relationship or the friendship, if if there is conflict. So yeah, yeah, and I think we see that in a lot of these songs. Just like even the song Canceled, right? Like that's more on the friendship end. But like good thing I like my friends canceled, right? Like I love you no matter what these other people are thinking. That's another kind of example of that.
Yeah, I like one of my favorite lines on the album is in I think Opalite where she says this is a storm inside of a teacup. And just the image of like two people huddled in a little teacup or just in this little space where they're riding out a storm, they're in it together, they're sheltering each other and they're finding their way through it. I just love that. And I want that for her. I want that for people, to feel safe and I have somebody in this with me. I think is really special.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that lyric because I was just about to bring it up. Actually, I had it like all ready to go. And I think that's a good example of it. And I also really like the phrase, but failure brings you freedom. And how especially thinking a little bit about their relationship and some of their highs and their lows and how they've been together through both of those things. And just like in just a daily life kind of relationship where there's a sense of like when you're failing, that's not a threat to me. That's not a threat to this relationship. There's something good on the other side of that. And like you were saying, like healthy attachment is being able to stay present with yourself and with another person in the midst of like conflict. I think like that phrase like failure brings you freedom. Like we're going to fail and there's still freedom, there's still something good here. That's not evidence that this is like bad or broken. And I love that line.
I don't know if this line relates to attachment at all, but another line that I love is "What a simple thought, you're starving till you're not." And yeah, I don't know if that relates to attachment, but I just think so often in life we either because we don't have a relationship we're craving or we don't have something that we are longing for, it can feel lonely and desperate and all of our efforts seem um, like they're not working. And in one relationship with one person, it doesn't have to be romantic. It could be a friend. It could be, a relationship with a therapist or finally finding support. But all of a sudden, you find the one person who can make life feel full, to feel like it's making sense, to feel like you finally have the relief or what you are looking for. And so, I think in all of this too is this, yeah, your failure brings you freedom and you're starving until you're not. And I love that.
Another lyric that's coming to mind as you guys are talking about this is from Wood. Seems to me that you and me, we make our own luck. Like we don't need all of this extra stuff, right? Like we can handle the conflict, we can handle the hardships of life, and kind of make it through together. And that's what feels lucky, right? That we have each other.
And I think another aspect of that we see even in wish list with that is there's a simplicity about what that requires, right? So like you kind of see in Opalite that like we can create this, we see in Wood, like you were saying, and then in wish list it's like here's all these like crazy things that most people don't ever get to see in their lifetime, like a contract with Real Madrid, like chopper blades, Balenciaga, like all of these super high-end luxury that is like reserved for like a small percentage of the world. And then she's like a basketball hoop, like a house, a block. Like I just like the contrast is like so insane there, but I think it also just shows how like the things that you can create a healthy attachment with are oftentimes very simple things. It doesn't have to be built on these big constructs and maybe you're not a millionaire, you would never think that you'd want these things, but you still have your own expectations, your own goals for your life and maybe even reevaluating that and like what are we looking for to like build this relationship on.
Yeah, I think it's really rich coming from her and Travis because they are living a life that not, most of us will never live and have access to those uh, um, experiences and money that most of us will never have. And she's saying that it doesn't matter. The image of the basketball hoop, right? And the driveway is something that all of us, most of us can just picture. And that was our childhood. And that's kind of, the life that we lived. And it makes me think of, yeah, some of her other music in the past that's talked about, I just want peace. I just want simplicity. Um, I can't have that in so many ways, but it's what I long for. And so, yeah, I think it speaks to that.
Any additional thoughts there? Should we move on to the next question?
Rudy said exactly what I was thinking, so I think we're good to move on.
Amazing. How do we recognize green flags in a relationship if we've been hurt and traumatized in our past? And I think this is a question a lot of people can relate to, even if you may not use the word trauma to describe your experiences. We've all been hurt and we've all been in relationships where, we left feeling a little bit beat up at a certain point. And so moving forward, how do we learn how to like read green flags? How do we learn to kind of like allow ourselves to ease into that in light of our pain?
I think Taylor in on this album and in the past has just talked about her family and friends sharing with her some of their observations about her relationships and the thing, the red flags that they see, basically. And I think a lot of times people that really love us and know us well, they can see things that we can't, but we don't always want to listen to them. And I think that that's relevant because when we're in these relationships or have had these experiences, it is really hard to see things clearly sometimes because we get lost in it and we think, we're the problem. So it's something that I'm doing wrong that's causing these things to happen. I'm pretty sure I can figure it out now or this time or next time. So I don't know. I think that's one way we can do that.
Rudy, as soon as you mentioned that, I thought of my brother used to call it eating out of the trash.
I was thinking the same.
Like that line just like 100% sounds like something a brother would say, right? Just like roasting you of just like, eating popcorn, just being like, you're eating out of the trash, babe. Like it's like such a roast, you know? But yeah, like, and then she's like, you're right, I am. Like,
Yeah. And in the Era's documentary, I don't know if you remember, but her mom obviously seems to love Travis, but she said something like, "Yeah, my mom can't believe she doesn't have to convince me to date someone that's actually good for me." And I think, yep, I think her parents probably had a lot of opinions in the past, and yeah, I don't know. Why do you think it is? Why do you think it is that a lot of us or a lot of people do that? Like, why don't we listen to people who love us?
I think in a lot of ways, change feels uncomfortable, and to do something different, we don't always have like the insight or even like respect for the people who are giving the feedback because sometimes it's unsolicited. And um, so I think that that can be a hard place to be because at least for me, like I'm a pretty independent person, and like if somebody tells me like what to do, I internally at least I rebel. Like I may still do that thing, but I'm like I would have gotten here on my own. Like, I didn't need you. And so I think that there's like this like internal like I don't know even what to call that tension, I guess, of I know this is good for me, but why make that choice if other people are telling me to do that?
yeah, I think I would agree with all of that. And I would add to there's something about learning things the hard way. Like we just have to know it for ourselves. And I really think of that as like embodied knowledge, right? Like I can know something intellectually, but everything shifts when like I've lived it, right? You could tell me to go to this restaurant, the food's amazing, but and I can believe you, but until I go, like I'm not going to recommend it to others, right? Because I haven't tasted it for myself. And I think that when it comes to relationships, other people like there's wisdom that can come with age and experiences, and it's not always related to age, but it certainly is an experience, I think, where you just have to like live it and come to your own conclusions. Because who
Yeah.
knows? I might be the exception. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we see that even in therapy, right? That like experiencing safety, experiencing change just in like the therapeutic relationship can be the quickest way to um to make changes in the outer life, because once you experience it, then you can say, oh, like I know this, kind of like what you're saying, Katie. But if I sit here and try to argue with a client about what the right thing to do is, that's not really going to get us anywhere. They're just going to dig their heels in. At least I would. So I think there is something to be said for really just kind of living. Not that we can't, I mean, we should always consider people's feedback, even if we don't agree, just giving it the time and space that it deserves. But
Yeah, the phrase rock bottom comes to my mind. Like in addiction, people talk about I had to hit a rock bottom, like the lowest low, in order to really wake up and reassess and say, like, I have to do something different. And I think I shared with you when we talked last time, I love Tortured Poets. Like that's my probably my favorite album. And that almost the entire album is about this ginormous, what feels like a rock bottom, really, like the the raw emotion. I'm thinking of The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, like that bridge, you know.
Mhm.
She experienced, I think, the culmination of a lot of rock bottoms, maybe, during that short period of time. And I think something about that wakes you up or makes you want to change. Especially, she was on the Eras tour. She was experiencing this huge success and, amazing things at the same time. It must have just been a weird dichotomy to be in.
Yeah, 100%. And coming to that conclusion too for yourself that this is something that you need to do, right? And everybody else, like we were talking before, like other people can give you that feedback. And like there's a wisdom in listening to that, but there's also that component of like coming to that information on your own that nobody else can do that for you. And maybe we even are the people who are trying to do that on behalf of other people. And we need to scale back and recognize like, I'm trying to convince you of something that's not mine to convince you of. Like, that's your journey. So that can kind of even lead into a boundary.
Yeah, we can't rely on other people to help, I guess, convince us of things, or we can't convince people if they're not in that spot for sure.
Kind of leading into our final question here. How do green flags evolve over time as the relationship grows and changes?
Yeah, I'm thinking I've been with my husband for over 20 years. We met when we were young, and it's interesting to reflect on all of that time because in so many ways we're the same people. Like I don't feel like we've changed all that much. But initially I really loved um, his optimism, his confidence. I felt like he respected me, and all of those things still exist now. And I think, okay, this just popped into my head, and the advice he was given, some advice he was given before we got married, or like, about deciding if we want to marry someone, is you can polish a diamond, but you cannot polish a turd. It's, I've always loved that advice.
that's
And
fantastic advice.
right, Taylor should write that into a song. That sounds like a lyric.
Take notes, Taylor.
Yeah, and I think like you have to start with a lot of green flags in a relationship in order for it to continue to evolve in a good direction. People can change, people can get help, but if you're with someone who from the get-go is not treating you well, doesn't respect you, finds you annoying, doesn't want you around, is kind of controlling, like those types of things don't typically evolve into green flags. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think what you're saying is there has to be like a baseline of respect in a relationship in order for that. Like you can grow from there, right? But if it's like toxic or if it's bad from the very beginning, then like the odds of this will turn into something else, like it might be wishful thinking at that point, right? Like we have to start with some kind of foundation there. Um yeah, and I think like even as I was like kind of thinking through that question, I was thinking about how, something something that can evolve in a relationship. Let's say, like, okay, you said you felt like respected by your husband, right? And so, like, but respect can like deepen over time, right? So, like, respect might be, it might look one way in your teens or in your 20s. And then in your 40s, like, respect could be something entirely different, right? There could be a depth to that. Or even in like the language that you use, or like just like this way that somebody treats you, like it just gets deeper over time as life gets more challenging you experience more hardship. So, yeah, Ashley, do you have any thoughts?
No, I think those are all really good thoughts, and I would say maybe that just over time, especially like going back for somebody who's had a difficult experience, if you're with a safe person, that can be like a really healing experience to really feel like, okay, I'm scared to tell you this, but I feel like I'm willing to try it, and then to be like fully accepted or like wrapped around, that's such a beautiful experience. And I'd also say like to be that for somebody else, that's a gift, right? To be able to be a safe person. And like over time, like attachment styles can change and like you can start to feel more safe. And so anyway, just yeah, I could talk forever, but
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, I think if that kind of wraps up some of our questions, I would love to kind of transition a little bit into some of our rapid fire questions, which we've never done before, but I would love to ask you, Rudy, some questions if you're good for it. So, yeah, maybe we can kind of jump into that next.
Yeah, are
So,
you guys going to answer them too? Or is it just me?
so we will actually answer them on different episodes. Today is
Okay.
our star. And
Okay.
okay, so
Okay. Got it.
for Ashley and I's answers, we absolutely have them. Um, but yeah, I guess I'll start with what lyric do you think best describes you on the album, Rudy?
Okay. My favorite lyric on the album might be I Protect the Family. I think I told you guys when we spoke last, but um I I think, it's interesting as a mom, as a wife, as a therapist. I just feel an intense, like, protective energy over the people that I love and care for. I'm actually like kind of conflict averse by nature, but I find that, um, yeah, if somebody is coming for, somebody that I love or acting un inappropriately, I guess I feel a lot of protective eldest daughter energy, maybe.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
So good. Is there like kind of in contrast, is there a lyric on the album that you were like, I feel I'm very different from that. Like that like didn't resonate with me or like I'm so opposite. Was there any of that energy?
Okay, this is funny. I told my daughter, who's a teenager and she's also a Swiftie, this question. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I did have like one lyric in my head, and then she said it out loud. And I was like, okay, okay, I just have to say it. And it's from Eldest Daughter, and it's we all dressed up as wolves and we looked fire. Because that's
Yeah.
like our least favorite. It's just like I don't know. It's not I don't love that lyric. I don't know. It doesn't hit, but I don't relate to that. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like yeah. Just it just doesn't hit.
It doesn't hit. I don't know. I get what she's saying, but
Mhm.
I don't know.
Not your energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a song on the album that you would love to have a music video for that doesn't already have a music video?
hmm Um, I could be clever and say would, because that would be just I
Heck yeah.
don't know what she would do. Um, but Father Figure is probably my favorite song on the album. So I think that that could be a really cool music video too. There's a lot of really good imagery and stuff in there. I think it could be pretty good.
Rudy, bonus question. Is there like a concept that you would have for either Wood or Father Figure?
Well, I can't tell you about wood. My concept for that. I can't tell you that. Um, yeah, Father Figure, I see like it almost, what I think would be cool is the blank space music video.
Mhm.
and kind of like turn it in some way. Like she, that moody kind of setting with dark rooms, and it feels kind of creepy and gothic. And I just, yeah, I can see what used to belong to someone else, it now belongs to her. And I don't know, there's something there that I think could be interesting.
Nice, nice. That
Yeah.
was so a bonus. So thanks for being willing to go there with me because
Oh
I was like,
yeah.
I'm involved. So love to hear it. Well, listeners, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Jeremy, for being our editor. Rudy, we would just love to encourage our listeners to come find you. What are the streaming platforms that our listeners can find your podcast on?
Yeah, I for sure Apple and Spotify. There might be others, but those are two of the big ones. So, yeah.